Hello and welcome to the Racetech Euro V8 Supercar Series live on Apex Racing TV. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick and alongside me this evening is Marco Barbonet in the commentary box and on the cameras as well. And we're here at Virginia International Raceway, the famous circuit, or maybe not quite so famous circuit in the US. A bit of an ancient circuit as well on iRacing, but it is a very unique, Marco, for these Euro V8 supercars that we are having around here today. Two races, of course, 20 minutes and 40 minutes. And this circuit is going to be difficult for these guys. Extremely narrow, difficult to overtake, lots of flowing, fast corners. Does divide opinion. I know some drivers absolutely love this place, some drivers absolutely despise it. But it will certainly offer a different challenge for these drivers tonight.
It will absolutely. Hello everyone, hello Sam, and yes, I have a tough relationship with this racetrack personally, so I don't know honestly what to say about it, other than I've never driven it. I only bought it because of commentary duties, but a lot of people always tell me, Scott Newton, Samuel Kumo, some of our colleagues, you have to race around here, and one day maybe I will, but it's such a tough track that really requires you great ability, good memory and great car control, because elevation changes, tough corners, this track throws everything at you and not a lot of room for mistakes. Yes, there are some wide runoff areas mainly made up of grass and trees, but apart from that, it's you really have the feel of one of those old school tracks around here in Virginia.
Yes, it's almost, definitely old school, because you just saw the tree there. That is a legendary tree. It's not there anymore. It's got shot down by a bolt of lightning, I believe, in a storm, or maybe just swept away by the storm. Of course, you do not want to hit that, I imagine. These drivers will do very well to do that, considering that there is a barrier around there. A little bit of a lower turnout today, 13 drivers. I imagine that's a combination of week 13, along with the fact that, of course, this track is very difficult, sometimes turns a few drivers away, but we should still have a lot of fun. And good news, Marco, during this week 13 about the future of V8 supercars on iRacing. Of course, it's well known that the real life series has been very cooperative with iRacing, with the new World Championship, or not, it's not a World Championship, but it's a proper official sanctioned championship with the V8 Scots, I believe. And now we're going to have two new V8 supercars coming next year, which I'm more than anything, I'm not that excited about driving them. I'm just excited that this series should have a nice boost at the start of next year when those cars are released.
Yes, absolutely. That's some fantastic news. It has been brewing, in the rumor circles for quite a bit about these new cars, and finally we had official confirmation also from the V8 the SuperCars official website, and the rumor these past few months was going on, and together with the cars there were rumors about some tracks coming together with them, or later later in the year. So half of the rumor has been proved as true. Hopefully the other half is true as well, because there are some Australian tracks that I would really love to have in the service, and will provide another boost to the series, in terms of variety, and also to us as drivers, of course. But the cars, I'm so excited to have them, and they will come with the new sets of physics as well. They will be brand new. Certainly, they will be a massive boost to the official series and to this championship in particular. So, very happy of the collaboration between iRacing and SuperCars Australia, and it can only bring good things, positive things for everyone in iRacing, and especially for the series. That's what I agree. It gets me most excited about.
Yes, and we certainly look forward to the start of next season. Sandown Raceway, I look forward to that potentially coming. There's some it's a bit like Brazil, I feel, is Australia in terms of their racetracks. Very unique, almost feel like club circuits, but they're a lot of fun. They look like a lot of fun. Very kind of twisty and narrow. It would be fantastic to have a few more of them around. Chris Jackson, good to see him around. He's been able to do the majority of the rounds this season. All the drivers have now stopped, and we're going to have a first for George McClay to be on pole position. Never had a pole position before, but he's dialed in here today. Very close amongst the top drivers, though, to be fair. So really, quite a few of them could win. And that reverse grid, it's a bit of a shame because if we had the normal 20 plus cars in this series, I think it'd be extremely difficult for the top guys to make their way up through the order. It would be really entertaining. It should still be very entertaining because we've got a lot of top drivers. No Nicole Foggy. That's a notable exception. I can't remember the last time Foggy missed one. It must have been over 12 months ago, I reckon, but he's not around, which does help main championship rival Johnny Brandon significantly. We are just gridding up then for this race one of the evening. As George McClay on pole position. Toni Kloosterman starts in second place with Johnny Brandon in third. Those top three very close right there. Richard Warmingham starts in fourth. Well, since he got a podium at Belle Isle 2 seasons ago. I think that's the last time he got one. Maybe today is an opportunity for him. Harold Stadler starts in fifth. Good opportunity for a podium for him. He got a couple last season. Then it's Chris Jackson, a little bit distant in sixth, but watch out for him for the reverse grid. Then it's Gary Croft, Nikolai Bogatyrev, Anthony Woodward, and Peter Bingham and Andrew Hoffman. Those 11 drivers set times. Hopefully we'll see Ronald Moons and Michael Frost on the grid, but they did not set qualifying times. So today, I guess a real opportunity for McClay to get himself back into the proper championship fray. Marco is a little bit detached at the moment from the two XVR drivers, but with Foggy not here and with a slightly smaller grid, a very possibility of maybe a double even today.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good possibility, I think. This track with so little, such a small number of cars can be a bit less tricky than usual because if you make a mistake, you certainly have the time to make it up on the track since you don't have to pass as many rivals as usual.
Here we go then, McClay from the pole position, Kloosterman alongside him. And away we go. Fantastic start for Kloosterman. He got off the line way sooner than George McClay and would easily be into the lead. He might have to cover it off though by going to the inside. McClay has an opportunity to go back down the inside of the Never Quit Racing driver, who's very deep on the brakes. Are the top two going to force each other out? Down the inside now comes Johnny Brandon, who can't get the power down. Does get second place though. McClay leads coming out of the first couple of corners. Going into turn three. Off the circuit goes Richard Warmingham. He had a decent chance at maybe getting a podium, but he's a long way behind now. Drops way down the order. Brandon, though, crucially getting ahead of Kloosterman. He's perhaps in the box seat as they negotiate this tricky middle pass of the lap. No overtaking opportunity here. You can really appreciate, particularly around this next S's section, how narrow this circuit is. It's Stadler gaining a place, Jackson gaining a place. Everyone has gained a place because they all got past Warming. Also, Hoffman has got past Bingham near the back.
Yes, unlucky there for that spin at the beginning of the race for Warmingham. I don't think he hit the wall, so he's good to go. In the meantime, we have a 3-car breakaway with McClay, Brandon, Kloosterman, Stadler, and Jackson following suit. Not that far away. Let's see Warmingham. His position is in 10th place, trying to get back at Hoffman as we switch back to the front because this is about to get very, very tasty, I think.
If he can make a move, then that could be very significant. Johnny Brandon down the inside. McClay's going to have to hang it around the outside of the first part. While the inside for the next part, so difficult braking into many of these corners because you're braking onto a curve. You've also got the undulations, and when you've got Johnny Brandon, one of the most successful drivers, of course, in this series, is under a lot of pressure. Andrew Hoffman off the circuit. We're going to see a lot of that today. Expect a lot of errors from these drivers. And once he dip a wheel onto the grass, very easy to go up into West Virginia instead, of course, or North Carolina, I believe. There's also a bordering state, side by side between Jackson and Stadler. Good start for Jackson. I said he would be a little bit disappointed with 6th place on the grid. well, it'd be a little bit disappointing that he hasn't been able to pull off the move there, because back down the inside goes Stadler, and Jackson might even go back to his starting position, trying to go down the outside there as Jackson early on the brakes was Stadler, and that was just what he needed to do. He's been able to fend him off, but you can see it's almost two different races going on at the moment, because this battle goes all the way back to, well, will go back to Richard Warmingham in 9th place once Warmingham catches up to these guys.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Top 3 have definitely pulled away from the rest of the pack. You know, with such a small grid, we also might have the chance for a surprise winner, because yes, the top drivers have less opponents to pass, but it is certainly true that should something happen to the top 3, I'm not trying to jinx them, of course, well, there are some drivers like Stedler, Croft, Bokatayev waiting in the wings to pounce on their mistakes. As another lap is in the books, remember 20 minutes, let's jump on board with Chris Jackson.
Here comes Jackson then, trying to get past Stadler for the second time. Usually quite respectful in combat, these two drivers. Stadler tends to get the most out of the car. Jackson sometimes just struggles to get the best performance possible. Here he goes round the outside. Oh, he just runs out of grip ever so slightly. Even then, he nearly tried to make the move on Hal Stadler. That was a great effort there from Chris Jackson, a driver who's only won 3 races across in the series, 2 of them at Phillip Island, the other at Lime Rock Park. Also, not Lime Rock Park, Summit Point, I believe. And, well, like I keep on saying, an opportunity for a few of these guys perhaps to take a win. I was listening to the V8 Backfire podcast. Listened to that on the SEO Racing YouTube channel. I only listened to one of them. It was the one maybe 2 weeks ago. And Clyde Whiting and Johnny Brandon and Toni Kloosterman all agreed that Stadler will get a race win at some point this season. Maybe today is his opportunity. Jackson, though, falling back, must have just got on the grass, I imagine, through turn 1. He's back into 8th place.
Here we go with the replay. See what happened to Jackson, and he spun on the inside, went back on the racetrack. And so he lost a couple of places as McLeay seems like he's pulling away from the dueling duo of Kloosterman and Brandon. He's got quite a big number of titles behind him, but he's not being phased so far, having a good run at the front. He's the Fifth Time Motorsports driver, and we go through. You know, the DRS sign there is so out of place in a track like this. Like I understand why it is there, right? But it's very strange.
I mean, imagine if they took F1 cars around like the streets of Monaco or something. That'd be, whose idea would that be? Absolute anarchy. But no, yeah, probably unwise to bring the cars around here. I don't know. I imagine they're probably raced in the official series around this track, in the MP4-30, or maybe the no batteries included series. I believe you can catch that maybe on the GSRC YouTube channel. Not quite sure. Nikolai Bogotayev loses a place to Richard Warming, who is making his way up through the order now. Chris Jackson, of course, made that mistake on the last lap, which gifted him a place. Here comes Jackson down the inside of Bogotayev, who nearly runs wide. Is an incredibly common mistake, just to miss your braking point going into turn 1 and going off onto the grass. And when you do that, you lose 3 or 4 seconds at least, because it just sucks you out, and then it's very difficult to kind of get back onto the circuit after that. So it's such a tricky circuit, this. I mean, you have, I'd say, even tracks like Belle Isle and Montreal it's similarly difficult, I'd say, to this place, because, like I said, a mistake will cost you big time. Kloosterman super committed to the S's. Brandon just messing up one of them. It caused him to struggle for the rest. Kloosterman is going to look for every opportunity to get past, but there's barely width for 2 V8 supercars around this part of the track.
You know, I was a bit skeptical in the past about that tree there, no? You know, all the story. I mean, yes, an important landmark. So last Saturday, so one week ago, there was a big storm here where I live, and the neighborhood tree was destroyed. And now I really feel what the folks at VIR were feeling, probably, about missing their big old tree. And now when I go there to the local, where all the shops are here in my neighborhood, you feel like something is missing. And, it wasn't as big as the VIR3, let's be honest, but it's still, a big hole left in the neighborhood.
Absolutely. I mean, we lost a tree just outside our house due to one of our neighbours. It was obstructing their view, so they ordered the council to knock it down, and they sneakily got it down during whilst everyone was at work. So we were a bit bitter about that. So yeah, I mean, and also of course at Snetston, my local circuit, 20 minutes down the road. I also have the scary tree, of course, which up there with Virginia's tree, one of the most legendary motorsport trees in the world.
Absolutely.
Any other trees that you feel should be noted down by us? Let us know on the chat. I mean, there's only about 7 of you or so. But if you're watching this back as a driver, leave a comment, and we'll certainly read it, and maybe we'll give that tree a shout out for the next meeting, if that's what you desire. Richard Birmingham, anyway, he wants to get past Gary Croft. He's, of course, a club driver, is Croft, and if he finishes in the top 5. No, actually, no, that won't work. If you finish in the top 5 in a field of 20 or more drivers, then you lose your club status for the following season. But there's not 20 or more drivers, so you should be fine from that, should Gary Croft.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of which, well, not me, give me the chance to talk about strategies, and of course our secret informer has told us that, of course, for race 1 there is no need to stop. Race 2, you can make it without stopping, as there was a terrible lap for McLeay, by the way. Personal best for Brandon. So in race 2 you could get away with not stopping. So we'll see. Of course, the number of cars on track may alter, the drivers and their decisions. It was a given that Taliancic would have gone without stopping, but he is not there here. So we'll see how the other drivers will play it out. But let's focus on this fight, because last lap Brandon was absolutely quick. 48.1 was his personal best. Much faster than both Kloosterman and McLeay, and certainly you can see now some sort of an equal distance between the top 3 drivers. Let's see if on this lap, it's a very long lap, almost 1 minute 50, if on this lap McLeay can answer to Johnny Brandon's very quick lap time, as they go once again under the big 3.
Yeah, of course, they're all just staying in line at the moment. It just takes a little bit. Oh, Jackson's off for a second time, but he somehow avoided the wall. That is pretty much the closest the wall gets around this entire circuit, but he very nearly made contact with it. He gets overtaken by a couple of drivers, Pocketive and Woodward. This is how it happened. He's just gone way too deep. Well, I say way too deep. I mean, he's just got a wheel onto the grass, and I mean, was very lucky not to end up in the wall right there. But Chris Jackson will almost certainly be near the front in the reverse grid at least, and a great opportunity for him to perhaps win a race today. But he needs to get rid of those mistakes if he's going to do so. McLeay still leading the way, 4/10 of a second ahead of Johnny Brandon.
This time is Tony's time to get his personal best. Brandon only 1/10 quicker than McLeay. They are bunching up there at the front, Sam. I'm expecting a very nice fight in this final 8 minutes or so.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, Toni Kloosterman also is on admin duties today, I've been told.
Of course, yeah, setting up the second session.
Yes. Yeah, there is
and we both know how difficult that is.
That is... Speak for yourself. I was flawless.
Don't kid yourself, Mark. Okay, you know how tricky it is to do the reverse grid.
Oh, well, speaking of, tomorrow we'll have the penultimate round of the Apex Racing League British GT Series from Spa, so you don't want to miss that at 7 GMT, more or less, on this channel. So all the titles still in balance, and Spa-Francorchamps, beautiful racetrack. Certainly, you don't want to miss that particular race. I always get confused around this track because of all the different starting positions that you have, pit lanes, left and right. So this is not the end of the lap, but every time they go past that, I say, okay, another lap in the books. And then no, it's not that.
It is a confusing circuit. Hopefully you'll appreciate anyone who's loaded up this track in the sim. Knows
Oh,
how
Alan
bad the
Stadler.
as Stadler. Well, he was up in 4th place, wasn't he, sir? So
Yeah.
that means that Croft is up into 4th place now, and finally making a mistake. He wasn't under massive amount of pressure. You can see Croft was keeping with him, and bit of a strange one there for Hauser. It didn't look like he carried too much speed on, but maybe just those tyres giving up a little bit, and maybe just getting his turn-in point a little bit wrong, taking a little bit too much curb, and off the circuit loses 2 places. Warmingham, great recovery drive. I mean, he was down in 11th place at one point, but he's up into the top 5. So terrific drive from him. Anyone who's ever loaded up this track on iRacing knows how bad the cameras are around here. So hopefully you're appreciating the cameras. We are pretty much using the same cameras constantly, and that's just because we've only managed to do 1 set of cameras, which look decent. I don't know if Marco might expose you to the TV2 and TV3 cameras around here, but safe to say they are not pretty.
I
And,
did that during qualifying and I immediately regretted it.
Of course, this circuit was built into iRacing over 10 years ago. It wasn't one of the original circuits, I believe. I think the original circuits were Summit Point, Lime Rock Park, and one other. But I think it was added within a year of iRacing being released back in 2008. May have even been one of the beta circuits as well, I'm not quite sure. And you can see the graphics around this place are not the best, and the camera packs are equally not so good.
Let's say it doesn't look as pretty as Barcelona.
No, and that does look really good, I must say. Credit to iRacing for how well they've done that circuit.
Johnny Brandon fighting with his wheel and fighting with the clock, trying to get as close as possible to McClay. With just a bit more than 5 minutes left, he gets very close into turn 1, but this is not really a passing opportunity. He goes on the outside, so he might make something out of it, but the inside is much better around here. But look how close he is right now.
This could be his best chance at the move. But that was really inventive there from Grant. It will get McClay thinking. He's got to perhaps brake a little bit later, because if you're on the inside round the circuit like this, so narrow, you can pretty much just drag your opponent out to the edge of the circuit, and there's not a whole lot they can do. But McClay, very well mannered. Of course, a driver who's only ever won 1 race in this series, I believe, made his full-time return to the championship at the start of last season, took part in the entire championship, only won his first race though at the very last round of the championship at Snetterton Park, and has failed to back that up this season, despite the fact that he's within a chance of the championship title. If as Brandon's off the circuit, and there goes Kloosterman. So Brandon almost took the lead. He's made a mistake just like Chris Jackson did, and Chris Jackson's teammate, Toni Kloosterman, moves up into 2nd place.
Yeah, uncharacteristic mistake there from John. Even though a couple of corners earlier he braked a bit hard, locked his front left, so he was driving a bit on the edge, but I was not expecting that from him. And look at this foursome here. Croft, the leader of the club race, Warmingham, Stadler, all fighting for position as we head into the final 4 minutes of the race. And that is almost disaster, with Stadler having to take it to the daisies to avoid the major disasters, almost collecting Warmingham. That was so close, Sam, to a big mess.
Yeah, that was quite incredible how the 3 of them didn't all make contact. Super fortunate that that didn't come to heads, and they stay in the same order. So Guy Croft, within a chance of getting what would be one of the best results he's ever had in this championship. Sure, Richard Warming will probably take a 5th place after the mare of a start he had, going off at turn 1. Stadler's off again. He might remain in 6th place. No, he's going to drop down into 7th. Can he keep Anthony Woodward behind him? Woodward tries to go around the outside, but Stadler has enough. So Stadler, who was up in 4th place, it's going to be a disappointing result for him in the end. We've got 3 more minutes to go in this race. So we'll have this lap. And then I think we'll only have one more.
Yeah, they
Because they'd
are
have to
halfway.
cross the line within a minute of this.
Yeah, they are halfway through the lap, so I think this one and one more before the end of race 1 here at Virginia International. Now it's Tony's time to get very close to George McClay and maybe fancy his chances of race victory. I have to say McClay has been faultless there at the front. Only one bad lap I can remember for him, but apart from that he has been very, very good under pressure. No matter what, he has held his own, and he has to hold his own for 2 more minutes if he wants to win this race.
It's, I'd say, in terms of the mentality of the drivers out there, it must be much easier to be following than leading, because if you're leading, you've got everything to lose. So difficult to overtake around this place that you can't possibly give up the lead due to a mistake. So you're constantly really quite cautious, just leaving a lot on the side. Whereas, of course, if you're in 2nd place, you haven't got nearly as much to lose. You can go for it much more. So expect, if these guys find themselves at the front in the next race, I wouldn't be surprised even if Kloosterman's leading. I'd be surprised if he could pull a gap on George McClay, because being the leader is so difficult around this track.
I tell you what, Sam, this is going to be very close for the white flag, so have to keep an eye. We won't know until basically the final corner, but yeah, it's going to be very close.
It should be the last lap, I think, but iRacing, of course, you're always going to have an error of a margin of error. Sorry. The question is, how big is that margin? Remember, I remind you again, this circuit was created over 10 years ago, so there might be a couple of glitches still around in it. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Marco. Could be an extra lap after this. So it should be final fuel. I doubt they would run it that marginal as Kloosterman puts his car down the inside. Was there contact? I'm not sure. Well, it may have just been a slide for George McClay. Johnny Brandon still 1 second behind these guys, just can't keep up. He's hoping that they'll come to blows. Kloosterman hasn't had, I think he's had 1 race victory so far this season. He's looking for another one. McClay hasn't had any race victories this season. Kloosterman is closing in massively. Is he going to go for the move? To the outside goes Toni Kloosterman. You'll have the inside for the next corner. McClay does superbly to keep him behind.
I think it's the last lap
in the race, and surely it is the last lap. They're certainly not going to cross the line in time. 8 seconds to go, and McClay is going to surely take this race victory for TechSense Pitstone Motorsport. Here we are, the checker flag is out, and it's George McClay who's going to win race 1 at Virginia, his 2nd race in this race, his 1st race win of the season. And whilst he wins, his teammate goes off the circuit for a 3rd time. Won't lose him any more positions. Stadler will finish in 8th place. Croft, great result for Gary Croft. Top of the club drivers, unsurprisingly. And that is one of the best results I've ever seen him achieve in this race. So congratulations to him. Warmingham, great recovery drive in 5th. Then Pogacar, a bit quiet in 6th to Anthony Woodward, but good results for them. Stadler, Jackson, Bingham, Hoffman, and Moons will round out the drivers. Moons will finish on the lead lap as well. So everyone will be eligible for the reverse grid, apart from Michael Frost. He didn't take the start. And so almost certainly, Marco, we will have a full reverse grid, because I think the smallest we can get is 18.
Yes, let's see. We are waiting on the results, and then we will go through them. Just waiting for the session to switch over. Congratulations to George McClay. That was a very, very good way to win. I mean, he was absolutely spot on, and he certainly resisted the pressure, like I said earlier. Absolutely fantastic drive from him. Just waiting for...
Should I watch Ronald Moons cross the line?
Oh yeah, we have one more. Sorry about that. We have one more very damaged car.
Oh wow! And well, he's got a minute to cross the line, so don't wreck the car, Ronald.
Is that new? Could you destroy the front bumper of that car before?
Oh, I'm not sure. You might be right.
I have never.
Okay.
Let's say we have been doing this for quite a bit. I don't
Yes.
remember a car missing the whole. I remember, I know a car was missing the rear, the part where you put your luggage or the front. You can miss the hood, but never all of it. So, well, let's go with the results, shall we? And then we'll debate about that in the break.
Yes, no damage model for any of the cars apart from the Skip Barber, but we have seen here some elements of that implemented for the GTE cars by some, so could certainly be the case. George McClay then, second race victory in this series. He wins by quarter of a second. We've seen a few tight finishes this season. That is another one of them. Johnny Brandon, a little bit detached in third place, but I don't think he can complain too much about that. And I think on pure points, that'll put him at the top of the standings. Gary Croft finishes in fourth with Richard Warmingham in fifth. There's Nikolai Bogataya, Anthony Woodward, Hal Stadler, Chris Jackson, Peter Bingham, Andrew Hoffman, and Ronald Moons, rounding up the 12 drivers who took the start. So, Marco, like I said, quite inevitable what this is going to be, but we'll spin the wheel anyway. There might be an opportunity at a -2 or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, we'll wait and see.
Yes, reverse grid wheel is on your screen. Let's roll it. Come on. So it's 24 minus 1, and I guess that means it's going to be a full reverse. Everyone bar Michael Frost, who didn't take the start. So Ronald Moon's perseverance paid off in the end. He will get the pole in front of Hoffman, then Bingham, Jackson, and Stadler. It's 40 minutes, so it's a long race, but Chris Jackson has got, I think, the best chance in quite a while to get another race victory in his career in the Euro V8s.
Yes, he's won once before at an American circuit. Can he back it up? We'll be back in approximately 20 minutes for race 2 here in the Racetech Euro V8 Supercar Series.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail. growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
Welcome back to the Racetech Euro V8 SuperCar Series live on Apex Racing TV. Once again, I am Sam Fitzpatrick, and once again, alongside me, it's Marco Barbonet, and we are lining up for race 2 of the evening. George McClay took the race 1 victory. Let's see if he can back it up for his first ever double in a meeting today. The grid for this race 2, after a full reverse grid, it is Ronald Moons on pole position. Andrew Hoffman starts alongside him on the front row of the grid. It's Peter Bingham, Chris Jackson, Hal Stadler, Anthony Woodward, Nikolai Bogotayev, Richard Warming, Gary Croft, Johnny Brandon, Toni Kloosterman, and George McClay. We are already getting ready for this race. Very quick how the drivers got onto the grid, and away we go. Hoffman with a good start, pulls away from the rest of the field. Really bad start for Ronald Moon, so he's straight away dropped to the back of the field. That might well be deliberate. Bingham trying to defend from the drivers behind. I think that's Stadler muscling his way down the inside. Jackson's going to get forced out. Does he lose many places? He's going to lose a place to Bogotayev. That might be the extent of the damage, but it's Hoffman leading from Stadler. Bingham in third position, so great start for Stadler. He's up 3 places already. Of course, one of them was Ronald Moons, who I think deliberately lifted off to let everyone pass. Has no interest in fighting those front guys. As spinning round was Nikolai Bogotayev and Chris Jackson. And just as we said, Jackson might have a chance at winning a race finally. It has really gone very badly for him at the start of this. But Stadler, right on the tail of Hoffman. If he wants to win this race, he's got to get past Hoffman straight away and start building a gap.
Yes, Hoffman pushing really hard. You can see not leaving any inch of tarmac unturned, as you can see, even going through the grass. Stadler very close. Also here in the back we have this bunch of drivers with Kloosterman, McClay. Brandon has been the quicker of the top drivers, getting into the front of the field. As you can see, Toni Kloosterman switching to the Ford mid. We have a 3 wide back there, but we have a possible pass for the lead here with Stadler. Not going to happen. So back to the 3 wide, which now is a 2 wide.
Oh, this is significant. McClay versus Kloosterman. Those two were the fastest 2 drivers on track earlier on, and Kloosterman holding off George McClay. He just got past Richard Warmingham as well. But Johnny Brandon is 2 places ahead of these guys. Brilliant start for Brandon. He did start ahead of those guys, and maybe just benefited a little bit with the pack really kind of shuffled during the first few corners. Very slow, very difficult to get your way through that first few corners, gaining some places. Still, Hoffman, though, is defending brilliantly against Hal Stadler. Peter Bingham keeping up with these guys as well. Brandon's just got past Woodward, so Brandon up into the top 4 now. And Stadler, every corner even, he stays behind Andrew Hoffman, is really hurting him at the moment. But this is the difficulty of overtaking at this Virginia International Raceway.
A quick update about the weather. It is 20 past 7. We have a 26 degrees track temperature and a boatload of humidity, 73%. So tough conditions if it was real life, especially for the massive. You can see a little bit of mist in the air. That's the humidity, and I really love that effect that they have put into iRacing lately.
I certainly recommend watching back one of our broadcasts from just over a year ago, just to compare the graphics, because I don't think it's totally obvious when iRacing continually adding little things. But you compare the broadcast, certainly look at the Barcelona one from a couple of days ago, because that's got a new circuit, and one of the ones from last year, and honestly the improvement that iRacing have made is really quite incredible. Here comes Stadler. He is into the lead now. Andrew Hoffman let him go quite easily there. Brandon's got past Bingham as well, so he can set his charge on the top 2. Look at this queue, though. They're all the way down to Nikolai Bogotayev in 10th place, all in a queue. I'm sure Jackson as well actually joined this queue as well. So this is 3rd place down to 11th pretty much. But Brandon, I'm sure, will very quickly pull away and will go and catch and pass Andrew Hoffman most likely. Next up to pass Bingham will be Woodward and then Croft. So all those guys are not too dissimilar in terms of their pace, but here comes Woodward for Never Quit Racing. He will make the move. Can Croft go through as well? He's going to look down the inside, but good defense from Bingham.
Chris Jackson, fastest lap of the race, but as you can see, he is way back in P11. Only Ronald Moons is behind him, as we have another overtake here with Kloosterman getting past Croft. So Stadler, with such a tough race one with many mistakes, trying to redeem himself, and he's doing that so far. 2 laps and a bit in, he's in first place. Bingham now under pressure from Kloosterman.
Yeah, so Kloosterman got past Croft, his own teammate. Kloosterman really out of line there, did well to recover the car, get back onto the conventional racing line. But just the front of that car ever so slightly dragging out as Croft goes off the circuit. So that's really disappointing for him. A fantastic race one for him, finishing in 4th place. Starts a little bit lower down for this second racer. Off the circuit goes Bingham. So Kloosterman makes up another place. Here comes McClay then. He wants to stay as close to Toni Kloosterman as possible, keep the pressure on Kloosterman, who is susceptible to a mistake or two, as we've seen over the seasons in the Euro V8 Supercar Series. McClay moves alongside. This is going to be a risky overtake because, of course, if Bingham locks a brake, then he'll unsteer straight into McClay and force him off into, yeah, another state. But nicely executed there from McClay. Here comes Warmingham now, and he gets through as well as spinning round. Oh, well, I mean, is it worth continuing for Chris Jackson? I mean, this is a typical Chris Jackson race, to be honest, because he's got the pace, but he just, for one reason or another, not his fault necessarily, just cannot execute it and can't get the most out of his ability.
Yeah, too bad, because I think in a sense I jinxed him, you know, by putting him as one of the favorites for this this second race. By the way, Brandon is catching up on Hoffman, but Woodward is closing in on Brandon. And this will, in time, the more Johnny cannot make the move on Andrew, which is not an easy thing to do. Hoffman is great at defending, especially. This will give a chance to Kloosterman and McClay to close the gap. And so let's keep an eye on it and see what happens here, because and also, of course, this is helping Stadler, and we have that big question mark, Sam, about the pit stops. Will drivers stop? Will they not stop? Let's see. It's a very interesting race. They say you only need 2 cars to have a race, no? We have 12 of them, and we have a lot of unknowns that will make this race very interesting, I think.
Yeah, you'd think that the drive should get to the end of the race at Phillip Island. Everyone apart from Taljancic pitted, and Taljancic won that race by 15 seconds, and surely they've learned the lessons that if it's possible, you got to go for it. I mean, even if you're losing around a track like this 2 seconds a lap, it's still worth saving that fuel, especially in these reverse grid races, because you're probably going to be stuck in traffic. Here comes Brandon. I don't think Hoffman's going to put up much of a defense. He didn't put up a defense against Stadler earlier on. He has no allegiances to any team, any driver, I believe. He's a slow motion racing driver, and I mean,
look at Toni.
Deep move there from Kloosterman, gets past Anthony Woodward. Strange that was so close, considering that they are teammates.
That was a dive bomb and a half. Let's very quickly get a replay from, as we have Bogatyrov in the pits, by the way. Wow, also locking the front right there. It worked. Here comes also McClay, trying to get the move done on Ant Woodward. At the same time, Kloosterman is putting pressure now on Hoffman.
Yeah, Kloosterman needs to try to keep up with Johnny Brandon, who is still 1.8 seconds away from the race leader. It's down the inside. There goes Kloosterman. Good move and good spatial awareness there from Andrew Hoffman. It's certainly Andrew Hoffman's most impressive race to date, even though he is starting to lose a few more places. One of the older drivers in this series, I believe it's Hoffman. McClay is going to make this one 3 wide. That is the smartest thing to do. Round 1, the narrowest circuits in the entirety of iRacing. But here he goes. He's squeezing through the middle, and he somehow makes that move. Terrific effort. He makes up 2 places right there. Woodward a little bit deep on the brakes, but McClay, that was gutsy. Usually a bit of a conservative driver, I'd say. There was nothing conservative about that because he saw just about a big enough gap and he put his car right there.
What a move, what an overtake, fantastic stuff, and that was a crucial moment of the race. If he had not made the move, well, probably they would have all crashed, and that would be, good night for the three of them. But now that McLean has made the move, he has kept a lifeline for him as Hoffman goes wide in the background for the remainder of the race, and he can still catch up to the leading trio of Stadler, Brandon, and Kloosterman, and maybe get that double race win. That, like you said earlier, that would be a first for him. I want to see that again. I'm sorry.
I do not blame you one bit.
If I
think
can
this
find
is the
it.
correct corner, though.
No.
Because this was earlier on in the lap. We need to go back about a minute or so because this was quite spectacular from George McClay.
We'll watch it later.
Yes. After the race is complete. I mean, the problem is that they didn't make contact. If he'd made the big contact, it would have shown up on the event view and it would be easy for us, but a little bit more difficult right there. Now, can he catch up to the two race leaders? The three race leaders. Got a 3-car race for this race win, most likely. Here we are. 3 wides. I think it was the initial way that he went down the inside, though, which was really spectacular because there was barely any gap when he decided to put the car down the inside. Credit to Hoffman again. I mean, he's really been superb in this race, and I mean, he could have easily kept his car and then realised as though that it's going to happen anyway, that McClay is going to get past and backed out of it. So Stadler still leading the way. Is this his chance at a race win? I mean, he's got half an hour to hold back 3 of the fastest drivers in the series. Of course, the 2 most successful drivers in the form of Brandon and Kloosterman, who have taken pretty much half the race victories in this series ever. Stadler holding off the first attack, but well, this is lining up brilliantly. Mark, I love these races where you got different amounts of speed, where you got the slower car right at the front, and also 4 different teams being, not 4 different teams, 3 different teams being represented, but I'm sure they're all racing for one another.
And for two different manufacturers, also, thanks to Tony's mistake or mindful decision of getting happy accident, exactly, of picking the Ford. We have 6 Fords and 6 Holdens. I think it's the first time we have an equal split in the history of this series. And certainly I think if Tony wins, he has to switch cars because once you go to the dark side, there is no coming back.
Oh, look at this. Well, I mean, Kloosterman he's incredibly fast. Of course, the only difference between these 2 cars is that the Ford has a bit of a divot on the bonnet. And some drivers like that. Some drivers use that as a bit of a reference for them. You can imagine, well, I struggle to imagine how that would help. But I mean, they can use it as a bit of a turning in point, I think, when they're approaching stuff. The Holden doesn't have that. So usually drivers go for the Holden. Probably 75% of the cars we see in this series are Holdens, just because they don't have it. But if you haven't noticed yet, and how have you not noticed yet, Marco does have some allegiances to the Ford. Oh, as into the pits comes Harold Stadler. He's pitting early. That's a bit strange, Marco. I'm doubting that strategy just because I want to keep those fast guys behind me for as long as possible, not allow them to get clean space and perhaps overcut me. But maybe he knows something I don't.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I wouldn't have done that, but what do I know? No, so we'll see. Big gamble from Harald Stadler, I think. Let's see, he's coming out of the pits. He should be good to go for the rest of the race. Now the question is, as Jackson also goes in, what are these 3 guys going to do? Are they waiting? Are they not pitting at all? It's going to be a long while, I think, before we know about it. And also, I think we see some headlights in just a bit, because sun is about to go down.
I assume iRacing haven't built in the headlights using up battery power and therefore fuel. I've just got a feeling that that element isn't quite being added yet, but maybe in a few years. McClay. Good line through there, really commits into that corner. Really difficult. You got to. I mean, this is such a technical circuit. Like I keep on saying, how it's one of the most difficult circuits in iRacing, because if you're going to get any kind of speed, you've got to be fully committed. But just the tiniest mistake when you're really leaning on the tires, and it can cost you so badly. I have the utmost respect for all these guys for racing the way that they are. Issue for Chris Jackson out there, and he's gone back to the pits. I think he's stayed back to the pits. Richard Warming getting past Anthony Woodward, or Willie? XVR versus Never Quit Racing. Not the first time we've had to say that. And Woodward with some brilliant defense, still having to leave some room for Warmingham, who is going round the outside. Brilliant overtake. This could be from him as he almost keeps it in a straight line. Remarkable save there from Richard Warmingham. And well, he didn't get the move done, but I mean, I think that's still a win in his own way.
I mean, let's have a replay of that. I'm sorry, but that was absolutely fantastic. There you go. Sorry about the slow motion. I had to.
No, it's totally appropriate.
Look at that. Great save.
I don't think I've ever used slow motion in a broadcast before on Apex Racing TV or of a replay. But that was of all the times to start off, that was certainly very good. I think we might see a few slow motions of these guys, because this is touting up to be a brilliant battle. Remember, in race 1, it finished the complete opposite way to this. It was McClay winning, with Kloosterman second and Brandon third. They started in this order. Of course, much further down in the field, but still line astern back at the start. They are still line astern. I need to say, probably it's the same gap right now as it was right at the start of this race. Kloosterman under big pressure here from McClay, who's going to go down the inside. Kloosterman fancies the outside line for the initial part, and that will give him the inside line for the next part. Brandon just keeping his car to the right side of the circuit, and that offered Kloosterman a little bit of a slipstream, which resisted the attack from behind by George McClay, and they're staying in the same order. But no doubt, Marco, as Richard Warren does now get the move done on Anthony Woodward, no doubt that the top three are all doing the same strategy, because we know how evenly matched they are on pace, and they are very evenly matched out on circuit at the moment. So it's clear that either they're all fuel saving or they're all not fuel saving.
Absolutely. I mean, at this point, you have to be committed and do whatever the other two guys are doing. Otherwise, you risk putting yourself at a huge disadvantage, because basically you would be playing your cards earlier than the other guys. And so, let's see. I mean, I don't think these guys have any idea of, you know, keeping it calm and cool and collected until the end of the race. So, let's see. We already saw McClay going for a move there, as we are about to hit the halfway mark of this race. By the way, Harald Stadler is in P8 right now. He's about to get close to Peter Bingham. And McClay is very close to the back of Kloosterman's car. Let's jump on board with him.
Fastest lap on that last lap was done by Guy Croft. It's down in 10th place, had a couple of issues as Scott, also coming to the pits. But he is setting some nice times as all these guys fight. It is going to be a three-way battle, though, it seems. Unless Stadler... I mean, I don't think Stadler's quite got the pace, even with these guys fighting. I don't think Stadler's going to be able to keep the track position they had initially. Brandon getting under a bit of pressure from Kloosterman here. But, I mean, where do you go? Maybe Kloosterman can go around there, but, I mean, there's just simply no room. Personally, I'm a massive fan of circuits where it courts to overtake. In real life, maybe not so much in F1, for example. I've maybe more easy to overtake circuits. But in sim racing, definitely these race-long battles where drivers are really bottled up, it causes the battles to go on all race long. Unlike Monza, for example, where you just slipstream past some guy easily. These races are absolutely superb. I think race of the season so far has got to go to Daytona, where we saw 5 or so drivers at the front constantly very close to one another. That wasn't easy to overtake circuit, but no one could pull away from each other, so they were just fuel saving all the time. Very much different today, but again, very little changes amongst these top guys.
But you know, Sam, it's also a byproduct of the cars, the way the track behaves, because driving the Ski Barber around Barcelona last night, it was massive fun. I really like the track. By the way, and I can't believe about this, yesterday I was in a race and I started side by side with a certain Mr. John W. Henry. Yes, the guy that founded iRacing way back when, owner of the Red
Oh wow,
Sox
okay.
and Liverpool FC, and I beat him. I finished third. He finished 18th. I was so scared to eat. I didn't want to eat him at the start.
Yeah, very strangely, your subscription gets cancelled the next time you load up iRacing if you had done that.
Well, a friend of mine said, have a contact with him, innocent, and then protest him and see what happens. But I didn't want. I make a happy buck with iRacing broadcasting, so I don't want to lose that source of income. Also, I like Mr. Despite having different sports allegiances, I like Mr. John Henry. So no, but it was quite scary to start side by side with him. With the
Because
guy that
sorry.
started it all, basically. So.
Yes, I mean, you gotta like the guy because, I mean, if it weren't for him, this may not be a thing. Maybe a different carnation of iRacing would be a thing because, of course, the same developers as NASCAR Racing 03 and Grand Prix Legends, of course. So something would have come out, but certainly not this incredible esports center of iRacing. Just saw the tale of the move by House Stadler getting past Peter Bingham. So Stadler up into 6th place, leader out of the drivers who have made a pit stop. Anthony Woodward also just coming into the pit. So, I mean, I'm very confused because this is a 40-minute race, and at 21 minutes we've got half the drives coming into the pits. It's just strange that they pitted so early. I mean, on lap 15 or so, you'd think either mega early to get out of the traffic and not having to make too many moves, something like around 5 minutes, because we don't expect these drivers to have to take much fuel whatsoever for this race, or you'd expect maybe mid-stage so you got even amount of tire wear for the 2 stints, or you could leave it as long as possible so you have maybe a shorter pit stop and put as little fuel in as possible later on, but and run as little fuel as possible as the race continues. But all these drivers seemingly having different ideas to that. Which one of these drivers will blink first? Because I think, Marco, if McClay pitted now, he could probably get some clean air and maybe could undercut these guys, but he shows no interest of pitting for now.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's a tough decision for these drivers. Also, by the way, I've got news from Chris Jackson, electrical issues to his computer. Sadly, it's not the first time that he has issues with his machine on Saturday nights. Remember, a few years ago, he was leading the way with a no-stopper in Laguna Seca Race 2. You were not there. I was doing that broadcast with Chaz and Samuli. And it was supposed to be a very exciting finish between him not pitting and a couple of drivers behind him pitting, but we never knew that because with 10 laps to go he disappeared, and sure enough his motherboard failed, I remember, or something like that. So that was very unlucky tonight as well for Chris. Hopefully a minor issue, because that issue kept him out of the competition for quite a while. Motherboard, such an important part of your computer, of course. This seems more like a USB electrical issues. Here we go with McClay at the Oak right-hander. Little bit of a bump to the rear side of Kloosterman. Nothing happening as we go once again on this long backstretch with the alternate pits there on the right side of your screen.
I don't know about you, Marco, but whenever I'm in a race a little bit like this where it's difficult to overtake, whenever the guy behind tries to overtake you, you get mega defensive because you're like, no, you can't possibly come past me. We're even on pace, even if maybe you're not, and you just think, I cannot possibly give up track position to this guy, otherwise I'm not going to get it back anytime soon. I think maybe Toni Kloosterman and Johnny Brandon, for that matter, may well have that attitude where they will do whatever they can to hold back the drivers behind, even if it does mean a little bit of contact, even if it does mean risking maybe the welfare of their cars as Brandon locks up. To be fair, that TV that camera angle did show off a nice lockup, but we go back to TV1
Yeah, I mean, I had to switch it up for a little bit of variety at a certain point.
yes.
But that camera shot from the roof of the pit, not good. I'm sorry.
It also just the timing of some of the cameras. I mean, there was like 5 different shots just down the main straight there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very strange. I mean, I don't know what the idea. I mean, anyone who's tried the Barcelona cameras, I mean, honestly, they are horrendous. At turn 1, the camera is literally above the apex of turn 1, which they're just floating in midair. I mean, I don't know whose job that is. But fortunately, we've already made a camera package. Down the inside goes George McClay, nearly making the move. Of course, to see that camera pack, just check out the broadcast we did yesterday of the special event organised by Tyler Maxon. And was very much fun. A bit of questionable driving, but it was a fun event after all. I'm very happy to have Barcelona and the TCR car.
It could have been worse. It could have been worse because it was my mom's birthday last night. I was out at dinner. Otherwise, I would have raced it that.
Oh my god!
Consider yourself lucky.
I would have scratched my eyes out if I had to see you drive again, Marco. I mean, as long as you didn't have the live timing up when you were going down a straight, I'm sure you'd cope okay.
Well, another lap in the books and another lap for Brandon Kloosterman and McClay in this order, even though McClay is trying his best to make a move on Kloosterman. And I wonder how much fuel is he saving by trying this, because he's really pushing hard. But you know, the gap is ebbing and flowing. Some parts of the track, Kloosterman is closer to Brandon. Some other parts, it's Kloosterman closer in reverse to McClay. By the way, Aaron Stadler is here in P5, and Richard Wormingham is here. So there's like 18 seconds between the pair of them, as we have Bogatyrov and Bingham slugging it out for P6.
Bogatyrov has already come into the pits as Bingham, a long way off the circuit there, gets back going, but that's a shame for him. I'm almost certain these guys are, well, I'm almost certain that at least Brandon is fuel saving, because their lap times are not particularly impressive. Brandon hasn't really been able to get out to the 50s recently, and meanwhile you've got Gary Croft doing 49.37. So he is definitely fuel saving. You imagine Kloosterman. I mean, Kloosterman is very fuel heavy, usually just goes for the one stop. If it's marginal, just go for the one stop and don't risk it too much. That's what he did at Interlagos, even though the zero stopper was undoubtedly faster that day. So he might still be pushing as hard as possible, but even then, I mean, the pace that they're going is quite slow. I think even that will save Toni Kloosterman some fuel. George McClay, I'm almost certain as well, will be saving a bit of fuel for himself. Kloosterman trying to get the power down. He is a little bit closer though to Brandon, and Brandon's got to be careful if he is lifting and coasting, that he doesn't lift and coast too early, otherwise he will leave himself very vulnerable to the Canadian behind. Puts his car in the middle of the circuit. That's good defensive driving from Johnny Brandon, just very much telling Toni Kloosterman, you're not getting past, so don't even try it.
So, yeah.
So I was just going to say that they're 10 seconds ahead of Richard Worming, who is slowly catching up to them.
Yeah, brought up the track map for that reason. As we have the two classes, by the way, you can see the club half a second slower their best lap compared to the Cup, which are the, you know, the quote-unquote pro drivers. They are all battling for the overall standings, and the club championship, they have their own mini championship. As the track map, you can see the gap between, basically the top three are all together, and only Toni Kloosterman you can see, because he's the driver selected, is little circle, as this is once again the favorite spot for McClay to close the gap, but it's not enough to overrun to try and make the move. So he will have to endure staying in his second position for a bit.
big lifting coast from McClay that time. You saw how he got very close to Kloosterman, and then a long way before the corner even turned up, massively backing out of it. It just takes a couple of really good corners, and all of a sudden you can really put the pressure on the driver ahead, or a little bit of wheel spin for the driver ahead. Massive pressure. This is a very intense race because, yeah, track position is absolutely everything, and just the tiniest mistake could be so costly for Johnny Brandon, who's looking to. It's difficult to tell who's in the lead of the championship. Remember, Taliancic, I think this will be his second race that he's missed this season, which will mean, and they only get one drop score, in fact. So Taliancic, despite winning 3 consecutive races and a massive points haul in the past 2 meetings, getting maximum points, a lot of extra points as well for getting 0 incidents. All of a sudden his championship derailing a little bit now that he's missed 2 rounds, and he could miss more later on in the season. Because Foggy using up his drop round today, don't expect him to lose to miss any more meetings this season. So quite it could be quite a turn in the championship, this, and it really does invite these 3 guys right back into the fray, particularly Kloosterman and McClay.
Nice shot of the tree there, as we go back on the backstretch, as it is getting darker and darker around here. Of course, Taliancic living in Australia, challenging time zone. We talked about it 2 weeks ago with him post-race. So he was talking about having to miss maybe this round or one of the next few rounds because of the time zone difference, of course. As you know, with 9 minutes left, Sam, it is, I think, well, now well established that none of these guys going to pit. And so it's a shootout from now on. Arab Stedler is not quicker than any of these guys right now. He's in line with George McClay's, maybe. Let's see, because now they all post 150s. So let's see Stedler, his lap time, and see if he's any quicker than them or not. The gap, by the way, is 28 seconds between Brandon and Stedler, so not, unless the tires drop significantly, there is no way you can get back to these guys.
The fastest driver on circuit for the past 20 minutes pretty much has been Guy Croft. Problem is, Guy Croft had some issues at the start of this race. Can't quite recall where it was, but I think he had a spin or something. And he said it actually won't even challenge Stadler for best of the rest in this race unless Stadler makes a couple of mistakes. If it weren't for that, I think Croft would have a decent strategy. Really difficult to tell what was the best strategy though today, because I mean, Croft's been consistently 1 second a lap faster than these guys. You think Kloosterman has quite a second in hand over Croft. 2 seconds a lap, you can make up the gap, undoubtedly. In the time, that would be 15 laps, and this is a 23 lap race, 22 lap race. I mean, who knows what would have happened if some guy had, if one of these 3 had pitted, but certainly would have been interesting.
So in the chat, people are predicting that there's going to be a pit stop.
Oh, okay.
Let's see.
You say people, 1 person.
People. It is a non-numeral adjective or name or whatever. You know, people.
I mean, maybe the people are correct.
Yeah.
Personally, I really think that Brandon's lifting coasting, so.
Well,
But I wouldn't be surprised
let's
if
go on board
Kloosterman pitted.
and hear it. Especially on the backstretch, I think we're going to hear it more prominently. Sam being the expert of enduros, probably going to recognize this better than me. I go so slow that I don't have to lift and coast. That's an advantage.
In endurance racing, it's not much of advantage, to be honest, to lift and coast. Usually, you can make it on fuel. Anyway, I actually made a well. Actually, I'll be quiet for a second because we'll try to listen out for this lift and coast at the end of this straight.
It's Chris Jackson with another account. Okay. I sort of recognized it, but didn't want to say anything stupid. So it's Chris Jackson that's saying bold prediction that somebody will stop.
McClay's not got particularly close to passing these top two for a few laps now. I think maybe he's just trying to back out. Type out between Bogatyv and Croft, by the way, both of which have pitted. Like I keep on saying, Croft has been very quick for a while. Here he goes against Bogatyv. Bogatyv fancies that outside line, but Croft, fantastic speed on entry. Can Bogatyv make contact with him? Croft just dipping a wheel onto the grass, got the braking power still, and he's up into 6th place. It would be a very successful round for him. Warming him into the pits. Where will... Oh, he's miles ahead of Gary Croft. He is behind Stadler, though, still.
Well, if they are not going to stop anymore, Sam, I think it's getting closer to the now or never moment for these drivers. So, and hopefully, you know, there's always this issue now with the new format. You have to take the white flag at the right time. If you take it at the wrong time, we might end up with 3 drivers running out of fuel, you know?
I mean, this isn't favoritism to Texans Pitstone Motorsports, who I do play quite an active role in. But I would quite like to see how Stadler win this race. If it meant, I mean, if all these guys ran out of fuel, that would be quite spectacular. Something that I don't think we've ever seen in this series before. They're going to cross the line at the 37-minute mark, so you know what, it's going to be really dull. It's a shame. It's going to be an easy 2 more laps after this, I believe. So, a bit disappointing that. So, it shouldn't be much of a question mark surrounding it. Will Kloosterman come in on this lap? Surely, if they're going to pit, they've got to pit now. Okay, surely they're going to go to the end of the race. You can't... They're not going to pit with 1 lap to go, are they? I mean, that would be suicide. What would be the point in that?
Mistake for Brandon there. A little bit of lockup. Kloosterman can close the gap, but not enough. As we are heading into the final 3 minutes, 2 and a bit to be precise, of this race. Surprisingly, the headlights haven't come on just yet. The sun is getting closer and closer to the horizon. Of course, it's the 15th of May. Couldn't be any different day, to be honest. I still maintain this should be a racing day.
Yes. I think I've said it before, but it's also my sister's birthday, so I would have to be... I'd have to juggle the 2 of them. I know which one I'd prioritise, though. Kloosterman, can he get the power down this time? Not a brilliant exit, but you'll get a little bit of a slipstream on Johnny Brandon. Next lap will be the last lap of this race. Peter Bingham coming into the pits. He's left it for a while. The Vulcan Racing, sorry. Still, 11 runners in this race. Everyone's quite competitive. Bingham should finish on the lead lap. So, good effort from these guys. I really thought there'd be a few more retirees, a few more mistakes, but they've kept it on the island very impressively. So, 38.5 minutes complete. None of these three coming to the pits. Kloosterman's going to pit. And, I mean, his only hope is that the top 2 run out of fuel. He will still finish in 3rd place, but I must say I'm bitterly disappointed about that. And confused. We should get an interview with Toni, but I don't understand why he couldn't save a little bit more fuel just to do the no-stopper. But, I mean, if Brandon and McClay run out of fuel right now, he will look like a genius. But they look quite comfortable, and Johnny Brandon is surely en route to another race victory in this series.
It was a bit of a surprise, I have to be honest. I was expecting either all of them to make it or all of them not to make it. As in the meantime, McClay is gaining a lot of time on Brandon in the S's.
Maybe running out of fuel. This Brandon has McClay save more fuel as he got a little bit more power he can deploy right at the end of this race. Brandon looking up a tyre. We've seen that a few times, and McClay is right on his tail. We've got just a third of a lap to go to decide who's going to win race 2. But going into this meeting, George McClay had only ever won one race. Is he going to triple that win total just in one evening? Here he comes. It's Brandon versus McClay. Brandon braking late there. We're having to watch these guys right to the line because Brandon seems to be quite marginal on fuel. As they round these final few corners, there's no more opportunity for McClay unless Brandon gets a poor exit from here or he runs out of fuel. He's got a decent exit, and closing in will be McClay with the slipstream, but the XVR sim racing driver of Johnny Brandon, he's going to have enough, and he's going to win race 2 at Virginia International Raceway. Congratulations to him. And he absolutely nailed that fuel. He had track position on those guys all the way through, and he held onto it without fault. McClay then will end today as the highest point scorer before off tracks and so on are influenced. Kloosterman, though, in third place. Hopefully we'll have a chat with him about that strategy. It didn't quite work out for him. He was trying to get past Johnny Brandon and just came up one lap short. Just behind, Stadler will finish in 4th, Warming in 5th. Croft will finish top of the club drivers, and he just about beats Bokataya across the line.
As all the other drivers are coming through, here's Hoffman, but in front of him is Woodward in P8. Here comes Hoffman. As he's got a couple of corners left. Is Woodward doing donuts? Yes. Donuts in the grass, always nice. There's plenty of it around here. Here it comes. Andrew Hoffman then for slow motion racing finishes in P9. And then we are just waiting for Bingham and Moose. Bingham should follow Hoffman very, very closely. Here he comes in 10th place. And 11th will be Ronald Moose for Race Masters, which I think will be back with us tomorrow evening at Spa for the British GT race.
Of course. Yeah, certainly tune in for that. Or take part if you feel like it. We did post a sign-up link on Facebook yesterday. So if you're getting a little bit bored during week 13, check out the series. As long as you're a decent pace, we will certainly accept you on board. GT3 and Porsche Cup cars, of course, that is. So Moons then will approach the line, and he wants a little bit more camera time, and who can blame him as he crosses the line there with the very enthusiastic flag men, of course. Not the wave men, which I mistakenly called them. I don't know if you saw that video, Marco, but yes, they're not the wave men. They are the flag men, the marshals, of course. Anyway, the results. Johnny Brandon wins out 4/10 of a second ahead of George McClay. Another close finish. We're getting so many of them this season. Most of the races are close finishes. Toni Kloosterman had to pit. That really ruins it for him. Running in second place for pretty much the entire race. Finishes on the podium still. Hal Stadler finishes in 4th with Richard Warmingham in 5th. There's Guy Croft. Nikolai Bogota close between those two. Anthony Woodward, Andrew Hoffman, Peter Bingham, and Ronald Moons rounding out the drivers in 11th place. Chris Jackson, 15 laps down. A couple of offs for him and also a computer issue as well. So we should get some interviews with drivers, and well, I mean, we're gonna have a chat with each of the top 3, which is very good. So first up, we will have a chat with the points highest scorer of the day, George McClay. Congratulations, George, with that race victory and also that second place. I mean, definitely your most successful race in this series. You must be delighted.
Yeah, aye. It was. I was kind of surprised with the first race. I managed to put it on pole, and then I started to pull a wee gap, and then I was like, oh, if I could keep this going. But then I realised I had my tyres one click too high, so then they started catching me again, and then it was just a case of trying to defend them off. But just quite lucky to get that win in. And then race two, I think it was just a fuel saving race, that one. So I was just trying to keep pushing Tony to see if he could keep pushing Johnny, just so hopefully they could run out of fuel. At the same time, I was trying to work out how much fuel um, I needed for the rest of the race myself. But luckily, um, it worked out not too bad.
Absolutely. Were you expecting Tony to pit with one lap to go? Because we thought once we got to like the last 5 minutes, we thought, they're not going to pit now. But Tony did pit with one lap to go. Were you expecting that?
No, definitely no. No, I was not expecting that at all. But I was kind of pleased when I did. Definitely.
And in terms of the championship, I mean, this is a really positive round for you. I don't know how many off tracks you picked up, whether you got any bonus points for that, but this big point source certainly brings you right back into contention.
It should be. It should be pretty close at the top. I think, and maybe the first race I don't think I got any off tracks, but in the second one, I'm sure I got 5 or so.
And next week, what race do we head to next week? I'm just looking
Watkins
at the
Glen Cup, Super
ah,
Sprint.
that'll be the super sprints then. So will you be taking parts in the sprint series next weekend? And how do you feel about Watkins Glen?
I'm hoping to take part in the sprint series next weekend if the missus allows me. But at Watkins Glen, I quite like that track, so hopefully I can get some good results there.
Well, best of luck to you. And before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Obviously, thanks to you guys for doing the broadcast, and thanks to the team for providing us setups and helping us along.
Absolutely. Thank you for having a chat with us, George, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Catch you later, guys.
So that was George McClay. Of course, Texans Pitstone Motorsports was the team he was referring to. Gotta get that in there. Marco, who do you fancy having a chat with?
Um, let's have a chat with Johnny Brandon. Why not? So he will be with us in just a second, and here he comes. Hello, Johnny.
Evening, Marco. How are you?
Doing fine. How about you?
Yeah, good. Bit shell shocked with that. All a bit of a late run.
So how
But
was
yeah, good race.
yeah? How was the evening? Because especially in the second race, it was uh, sure we were sure that none of you were going to pit. So at the end, Tony had to pit. How close were you to running out of fuel there?
I still had sort of half a gallon, so I would have struggled to make another lap, but I had plenty to finish that lap. But I wasn't sure how many laps it was going to be, so I haven't I haven't actually done any. I've been in Crete all week, and I literally got back home. My flight landed at 5 o'clock today, just gone 5 o'clock tonight, and turned everything on, did the updates, and joined the session 1 minute before it started. So made a few mistakes in race one, which was upsetting. But considering I didn't get to touch the car until 1 minute before the end of the practice session, 1 minute before qualifying, I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And what about the racetrack? Because it's not one of the popular racetrack in iRacing. Certainly, the participation showed it. How do you feel about this VIR racetrack?
I like it. I think I should say, although I didn't do any practice this week, last week there was the sprint race. So I did have the car ready to go, and I did the race at the sprint races, so I knew the car was all right, even though I didn't touch it all week. But I didn't know what it was like on the full fuel for the feature race. But I like the track. I think it's a real good technical track. If I'm being completely honest, I don't like the fact that we were all just really cruising to save fuel in that second race. It would have been better to have to go, because I was really cruising, trying to save fuel there, and obviously the guys behind were doing the same, but they couldn't get past anyway because of the layout of the track in this car. If I covered them off in the right places, so it would have been better to be able to go full steam. And then it's quite a handful, this track. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Like you say, it's a shame the numbers were a little bit low. But yeah, it's always good fun in the V8.
And of course, in 2 weeks, it's going to be completely different because Super Sprint at Watkins Glen Cup, so there will be no fuel saving there, I would imagine.
Not in the super sprints. Yeah, no chance. Unless you make a terrible error in how much fuel you put in the car.
How do you feel about the cup layout of Watkins Glen? I really like it personally. I think it's going to provide for some very, very entertaining races in 2 weeks' time.
What one's the cup layout? Is that
The short one.
Okay, yes.
So
I
you
normally
do.
prefer the full
Mhm.
circuits, the full versions of circuits, but like I've said it before, I like everywhere. It's the same for everybody. The only tracks I don't like are places like Brands and Laguna Seca, because it's just done lap after lap after lap after lap after lap round those tracks, and I get a bit bored of that. So I like the new, different one.
Well, Johnny, once again, congratulations. And is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Well, you guys for doing the broadcasts, even the low numbers there. Everybody that runs the league, XVR, Racetech, Smortal, and give a little shout out to my teammate Nickel Foggy, who's got TCR-itis at the moment. So I hope he gets better soon. And yeah, wish him well.
Thanks,
Lovely.
Johnny.
Cheers, Marco.
Catch you in 2 weeks' time. Bye bye. So, Sam, that's the mystery solved on where the hell is Nicole Foggy tonight.
Yes. I mean, yeah, hopefully he gets over that horrendous condition, because we need to see him back out on circuit. We will see him, of course, in the TCR. Sorry, the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship. That's the name of it. I will learn it eventually.
You are the
Because
organizer, so I would
I
hope
am.
you know how to say the name of the championship.
Yes. Oh dear. I swear, if Adam introduced it as the VSRTC next season,
He's
I'm
getting
not going to be
fired.
happy.
He's
Yeah.
getting fired on the spot.
And I'll take his spot. I'll happily broadcast that. So it's going to be great fun. That starts on Thursday for the media day, and then championship proper. And I'm sure I know Nicole is doing that. Not sure about Johnny. They were going to have quite a big effort towards that XVR, but I think they've only got 3 drivers now. Anyway, we'll get back to the interviews. The next man I've got to have a chat with is Toni Kloosterman, of course, who came away today with a 2nd and a 3rd place. Toni, just first question: what was your plan strategy for that 2nd race? Were you always going to make a pit stop, or were you maybe just trying to get to the end, but then there was that extra lap? Just take us through your thinking.
Well, the plan was to take a pit stop around lap 10, and then the way that it played out in the first couple of laps, I thought, well, maybe I can save enough. And I had switched over to the Ford because I had heard that it got better fuel mileage, but apparently that's wrong as well.
Well, I mean, it was still a decent result in the end, and I mean, you were one of the few drivers who didn't make a mistake all day long. Even Johnny made a mistake. I think maybe George had was close a couple of times. You seem to be really dialed into this track. Just a shame that you were stuck behind drivers for the entire evening.
Well, being stuck behind was a matter of choice, actually, in the second race, because I was just trying to draft a little bit off Johnny and save fuel. I think all 3 of us actually were doing the same thing and seeing who could make it to the end. And in the end, I was about a half a gallon short, which is unfortunate, but it doesn't surprise me, and still salvaged a 3rd out of it. So very happy with that.
Do you think the one stopper was a potentially very swing strategy? Do you think if maybe you hadn't of fuel saved, and say, for example, of course, totally hypothetical, say you were ahead of Johnny after lap 5 and you'd pulled a gap by not fuel saving, and then you came into the pits, could you have, was that a possible strategy that could win the race, or was it always going to be the 0 stopper?
No, I think if you could get ahead by maybe the fourth lap and then stretch it out a little bit, I needed to have about maybe 9 or 10 seconds by halfway uh, as an advantage. And then I think that would have worked out because tires and obviously our lap times were very, very slow, probably 2.5 seconds a lap off of what we should have been doing. So it was entirely possible because the pit stop would have only taken about 8 seconds or so.
Next week we head to Watkins Glen. You tend to do pretty well in the super sprints. Do you expect to do well round there? Of course, track not quite near to your home, I believe.
Yeah, just visited there a couple of weeks ago for the NASCAR race, actually. So I enjoy Watkins Glen, and I think that the sprint races will be very interesting. We have our warm up next week, and then the official that you're broadcasting is sprint races as well. So I hope to see a bigger grid. I'm really disappointed in the grid today, the size of it, but maybe it's just the track combination.
Yeah, could well be, and also, yeah, a few drivers getting obsessed with the TCR car. Hopefully, you're absolutely right. We'll get a bit better turnout for Watkins Glen in 2 weeks' time. Before we let you go, Tony, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
All the organizers of the league, of course, Racetech for sponsoring our league. You guys for doing an excellent job and never quit racing sustainability. All our team members. Thank you.
Thanks for having a chat with us, Tony, and good luck for 2 weeks' time.
Thank you.
So we've got a couple more interviews to go. Marco, who do you fancy having a chat with next?
Want to have a chat with Harold Stadler. Hello, Harold.
Hello, Marco. Hello, Sam.
Or as they call him, Humphrey Gokart, right?
Yep.
that was fantastic, man. Welcome to the booth, and after a tough race one, you had a nice comeback in race two. Aren't you a bit, I wouldn't say upset, but don't you think you could have tried to go for the no stopper as the three guys that finished in front of you, or in the end you didn't lose any? I mean, you were basically hanging with them, but don't you think maybe looking back at it, you could have played your cards a bit differently?
Well, in the second race, I got very confused with the fuel consumption because in all the practice sessions and the race before, I used a lot more fuel, and out of the sudden, I was 0.4 liters lower than in the sessions before. But I didn't knew that. I relayed on my digital race engineer, and after 5 laps, when the first fuel consumption calculations are in the DRE, I was above the limit to make it to the end, and I decided, now let's go full throttle. And yeah, at the end, well, I filled in less than the DRE calculated, and I still had 10 liters left at the end. So at the end, I have to say, I could have made it relatively easily without a stop. But I bet it wouldn't have changed anything on my end result. So because Johnny, George, and Tony were simply too fast. Maybe because Tony had to stop at the end. Maybe that would have been one spot. But anyway.
What about the racetrack? Are you, do you know, did you know the racetrack before jumping in, or is it like a first time for you running around VIR?
No, I did race it before in other classes, but it's long ago. Yeah, and it was slower cars, so Mazda, Skippy, and such. But it is really nice and really fun track. I really like driving here. With the V8, you can really fly on this track at some points, especially in these fast S's. They are totally fun here with this car.
Next week, sorry, 2 weeks time for the super sprint event, the short layout at Watkins Glen. Feeling confident about that?
I feel confident about the short layout. I like it a lot better than the long one. I don't like this part at this lower part. somehow. So maybe, yeah, but I think it would be the same suspects at the front as usual. I don't think I can finally get a bit closer, but I will try.
Well, thank you very much, Harald. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, as usual, I like to thank you for the broadcast. It's every time a pleasure to watch it after the race. And yeah, of course, Fitztai and yeah, SG Stern, the club I'm in. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harald, and we'll catch you in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, of course. See you.
And that was Harald Stadler, of course, and he will be back in a couple of weeks' time. Very, very excited for that round there, Sam, in Watkins Glen Cup. It can really be. I think we could have a surprise winner there.
Yes, certainly hope so. Super sprints tend to mix up. We need another JP Boosterland win, which was before Marco's time in the series, but he won a Lime Rock race, and that was one of the most legendary drives in this series ever. So we need another one of them. By the way, of course, Hal Studder, Diache, the club, of course, UK and I beat Diache the other day in the World Cup of iRacing. Unfortunately, lost for like the 10th year in a row against Finland, though, in the final. So
Yeah, but all these countries not having their own proper club, unlike Italy, who have their own Italy, and
yes,
not Italy and San Marino or Italy and Vatican City. We are only Italy, so
honestly,
deal
that
with it.
Vatican City contingent. I mean, that's that's a good club, all right. I mean, yeah, Pope Francis hopping onto a bit of iRacing, of course. I'm sure the Catholic supports sim racing. Anyway, we'll have a chat with Andrew Hoffman. And first off, Andrew, I'd just like to say, really well done in that second race, because those first few laps, you were really mixing it with the front guys. You kept Harold behind you for a few laps. You kept Johnny behind you for a couple of laps as well. That must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, all with wobbly knees. Yeah, it was really good when I saw Ronald parked at the start. Yeah, it was like a dream come true in a way, and help from Mike Talianchitz too. The coaching's paid off, but the race was really good. Uh, Remembered all my brake markers and tried to keep it clean.
I mean, this circuit looks incredibly difficult. Whenever I've raced on it, I mean, I'm always falling off the circuit. But you and all the drivers, to be fair to state, there were relatively few offs, maybe a couple in some of the races. But I think the driving standards today were really good. Did you find, were you comfortable around this circuit? Because it certainly looked in the early stages in race 2 like you really had a knack for this place.
Oh, it's a devil circuit for sure. But the track's growing on me, and yeah, it's basically a track where you've got to keep your brake markers to a certain point unless you're overtaking. That's what I find. And steering inputs around this track too. Too much steering inputs can really hurt a lap.
Definitely. Next week we head to Watkins Glen, the Cup circuit for some super sprints. What are your aims for that race? Have you got any kind of aims for to achieve any results you hope to fulfill?
Just clean racing, keeping it on the track, and yeah, finishing as high as I can. Just running my own race like I did with this one. That's basically it.
Well, we wish you the best of luck for that one, of course, Andrew. And before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Yes, yourselves, Racetech, Clyde, who can't be here, and I'm definitely gonna be waiting for the Tony Johnny show in the podcast. That's going to be interesting. Fletcher Junior, Flower Cast Bay Retreats, unfortunately gone, but there's another personal sponsor coming on board. So need a new paint coming up shortly. So if anyone's interested in wanting to paint a car, I've got the colours, I just can't paint them very well.
Well, we certainly hope to see that new paint in a couple of weeks' time, Andrew, and best of luck at Watkins Glen.
All right, thanks, guys.
So that was Andrew Hoffman for slow motion racing. And that pretty much rounds off our interviews for this evening. So, Marco, the end of this Virginia International Raceway round, a circuit that we've never visited, at least in my experience in this series. But I think it produced a lot of good racing, particularly races 1 and 2. Out in the lead, it was very difficult to call what was going to happen next. It was really very intense racing amongst those guys. And I think in this car in particular, it's a great test for these drivers.
Certainly, and like I said, the way the track is shaped, the way there are some parts where it's very, very narrow, not very easy to pass, but there will be chances, but they are not easy. I think we might have, like I said, a couple of surprises here and there. So let's see. Let's see. It's going to be a very, very exciting race in a couple of weeks' time.
Absolutely, we're looking forward to it. Of course, next week we've also got the Sprint Cup as well in the UV8 Supercar Series. We won't be broadcasting that, but certainly do check out the ASEA Racing YouTube channel if you want to see a little bit more UV8 Supercar Series action. And of course, tomorrow we are broadcasting the Apex Racing League British GT Championship from Spa. Of course, you know, that fantastic circuit in the UK called Spa. That'll be the penultimate round of the championship. Of course, GT3 and Porsche Cup cars in that. And then next week, it's superb because we're properly starting back up again. Week 13, we had a little bit of downtime, but next week we'll have the World GT Championship. I'm a bit bitter that I am not doing that anymore, but maybe the Masters I'll do on Tuesday. Both of them will be on the iRacing Esports Network, along, of course, with the Sim Racers World GT Championship as well on Wednesday evening. And on Thursday evening, very exciting, we'll have a TCR League starting up. It'll be the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship. It'll be the media day for that championship. So very exciting, the start up of next season. But for now, from me and from Marco, we're going to say goodbye and we'll see you next time.